This is a short video explaining, just walking you through this week's two modernist poems, Miniver Cheevy first, and then Acquainted with the Night. So I'm going to read through this and just talk a little bit about what it means, not necessarily the tenets of modernism that it displays, because that's up to you, but just a little bit about the bare meaning of the poem. So Miniver Cheevy starts out, Miniver Cheevy, child of scorn, grew lean while he assailed the seasons. He wept that he was ever born, and he had reasons. So it starts off with that sad tone. Child of scorn probably means that he is receiving scorn from some place. So that negative emotion is in him. It says that he grew lean while he assailed the seasons. So to me, that means as he grew and as he got older. The second stanza says, Miniver loved the days of old when swords were bright and steeds were prancing. A vision of a warrior bold would set him dancing. So he, like the first stanza says he weeps that he was ever born, and he has reason. So he has a bad life in some regards, but he does love the days of old, and so he loves that older vision of warriors and knights and things like that. The next few sections have a lot of footnotes, so I just want to point out that if you look through these footnotes at the bottom, which match up with some lines and some ideas like Thebes and Camelot and Priam, these are all references to ancient things like ancient Greece, King Arthur's court, Homer's Iliad, ancient things, old-fashioned things. Just keep that in mind. You don't need to necessarily know what every single one of them is. So the next several stanzas say, Miniver sighed for what was not, and dreamed and rested from his labors. He dreamed of Thebes and Camelot and Priam's neighbors. Miniver mourned the ripe renown that made so many a name so fragrant. He mourned romance, now on the town, and art a vagrant. Miniver loved the Medici, albeit he had never seen one. He would have sinned incessantly could he have been one. Miniver cursed the commonplace and eyed a khaki suit with loathing. Khaki suit, in the days that this was written, was probably pretty modern. So it says he missed the medieval grace of iron clothing, like we see in this picture, maybe like a knight in shining armor. Miniver scorned the gold he sought, but sore annoyed was he without it. Miniver thought and thought and thought and thought about it. Miniver Cheevy, born too late, scratched his head and kept on thinking. Miniver coughed and called it fate and kept on drinking. So there is a sense in the poem that he wants to live in a time way before when he lives, but then in the last stanza we said that we see that what he does about it is scratch his head, call it fate, and keep on drinking. So that's a little bit about Miniver Cheevy. Acquainted with the Night by Robert Frost. I'll just read through it and talk through it the same way. It says, I have been one acquainted with the night. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the furthest city light. So that gives you an idea that he is familiar with some sort of darkness, like the night, and rain, so maybe tough times, if we're reading into it further, which we probably are because it is a poem. This next stanza says, I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. There's some unknowns here, but just think about the posture. It's a sad city lane. He drops his eyes. He won't make eye contact with this guy. It says, I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street, but not to call me back or say goodbye, and further still, an unearthly height, one luminary clock against the sky, proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been one acquainted with the night. So I would think about the unknowns here. What is the interrupted cry far away? What does he, the speaker of the poem, maybe think that it is? And And what does he know that it's not? He knows that it's not to call him back or say goodbye. And one other image that sticks with me is this luminary clock proclaiming that time is neither wrong nor right. And so I would think about time in this poem versus time in the other poem. What do you know for sure about Miniver Cheevy, and what seems to be like a question mark for this narrator, that this time was neither wrong nor right? Why is that, perhaps, considering that this is a modernist poem? I hope those little talk throughs help a little bit, and let me know if you have any other questions as you guys are working.